Part 2. Emotional Intelligence of Long-Term Migrants. Chapter 1. Introduction. To tackle this part of the book, we must first of all clarify the terminology to be used. When we talk about migrants, emigrants, or immigrants, we often misuse the concepts. So first of all, let us define what long-term migrants are. Long-term migrants are people who move from their country of origin to another country with the intention of settling there permanently or for a prolonged period of time. Unlike temporary migrants, who may move for seasonal reasons or for a specific short-term project, long-term migrants seek to create a new life in the country of destination. This type of migration can be voluntary or forced, depending on the circumstances that lead people to leave their place of origin. The contexts from which long-term migrants come are diverse and can vary significantly. One of the most common contexts is the search for better economic opportunities. In many cases, people migrate from countries with developing or emerging economies to countries with more developed economies, hoping to find employment, improve their standard of living, and provide better opportunities for their families. These migrants may be highly skilled, seeking skilled jobs, or they may be less skilled workers who find work in sectors where there is demand for labor. Another relevant context is migration for reasons of conflict or persecution. Many people flee situations of war, gender violence, political, ethnic, religious, or sexual orientation persecution. These migrants seek refuge and asylum in countries that can offer them safety and protection. Refugees and asylum seekers often come from regions where political stability and personal security are precarious, such as countries in civil war or under repressive regimes. In addition, there are long-term migrants who move for family reasons. This includes those who move to join family members already residing abroad, such as spouses, children, or parents. Family reunification is an important motive for migration, as it allows families to live together and support each other. Education is also a factor in long-term migration. Many students move to other countries for higher education, and, after completing their studies, choose to remain in the host country if they find employment opportunities or establish personal and professional ties. We see, therefore, that long-term migrants arrive in host countries from a variety of contexts, including the search for better economic opportunities, flight from conflict or persecution, family reunification, and education. Each of these reasons for migration brings with it a unique set of challenges and experiences for migrants in the process of adapting and integrating into their new communities. Migration in search of better employment, educational or quality of life opportunities is often motivated by a desire for personal and professional advancement, as well as the hope of building a more prosperous future for themselves and their families. Voluntary migration, in this sense, can be an enriching and growth-enhancing experience, although it also entails challenges and sacrifices, such as adapting to a new culture and distance from loved ones. On the other hand, there are those who do not have a choice and are forced to leave their homes due to extreme circumstances beyond their control. This is the case for people fleeing war, political persecution, human rights violations, natural disasters, or severe economic crises. Forced displacement is a traumatic experience that involves not only the loss of material assets, but also of community, family environment, and in many cases, cultural identity. Refugees and IDPs often face precarious living conditions, insecurity, and constant uncertainty about their future. The psychological and emotional consequences of forced displacement are profound and long-lasting. People who have experienced such situations often experience high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. In addition, the trauma of losing everything they knew and experiencing extreme violence and danger can lead to mental health problems that require specialized care and support. Adjusting to a new life in a foreign country can be a long and difficult process, especially if there are inadequate support networks and if the receiving environment is not welcoming or supportive. It is also important to consider the social and economic impact of migration on receiving countries. The arrival of migrants can generate tensions in local communities, especially if resources are limited and if there are negative perceptions of the newcomers. However, it is also true that migrants can make a significant contribution to the economic and social development of host countries, bringing cultural diversity, labor, and new perspectives. In conclusion, Long-term migration is a complex phenomenon that cannot be understood without analyzing the various motivations and circumstances that lead people to leave their homes. Whether by choice or necessity, each migration story is unique and deserves to be understood and respected in all its complexity. Empathy and solidarity are fundamental to building more inclusive and just societies, where all people, regardless of their origin, can find a safe and dignified place to live. In line with this, emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in the experience of long-term migration, both for migrants and receiving communities. Long-term migration involves significant challenges that affect emotions, identity, and interpersonal relationships. When, in addition, migration is driven by the need to flee armed conflict, the trauma is greatly exacerbated. Migrants who are forced to leave their country face the stress of leaving home, adapting to new cultures, learning a new language, and dealing with economic uncertainty. Emotional intelligence helps to manage this wide range of emotions, facilitating better adaptation and reducing the risk of mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. Migrants who develop self-awareness and self-regulation skills can identify when they feel overwhelmed and use effective coping strategies, such as relaxation techniques or seeking social support. Humans are creatures that have adapted to almost everything over the centuries. They have survived famine, disease, the cold of the Arctic, and the sweltering heat of the arid desert. The ability of human beings to adapt to the environment is a fundamental characteristic of our species, which has been key to our evolution and survival over the millennia. From physical and genetic adaptations to cultural and social skills, our ability to adjust and thrive in diverse environments remains a distinctive and essential feature of humanity. However, this does not mean that we have the same capacity to adapt to all situations. Some situations are far more complex than others, and fleeing war is one of them. That is why, for people who flee their country because of war, good emotional management, which is after all derived from emotional intelligence, is of paramount importance. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as the emotions of others. In the context of long-term migration, emotional intelligence plays a crucial role because of the various emotional and psychological challenges faced by people who move to live in another country permanently or for an extended period of time. This form of migration involves adjusting to a new cultural, social, and economic environment, which can create emotional stress and adjustment challenges. Emotional intelligence helps to develop coping skills and resilience, enabling migrants to better manage uncertainty and difficulties. Changing countries and facing barriers such as language, discrimination, or separation from family and friends can be stressful. Emotional intelligence enables individuals to manage stress, reduce anxiety, and maintain a balanced emotional state during this process. In a migration context, it is common to interact with people from different cultures and backgrounds. Emotional intelligence facilitates empathy and the ability to establish meaningful connections with others, thus promoting social integration and mutual support. Knowing and understanding one's emotions, self-awareness, is fundamental to making informed decisions and managing behavior effectively, self-management. This is crucial for migrants, as it helps them navigate daily challenges and maintain a sense of identity and purpose. In addition to this, emotional intelligence contributes to mental and emotional well-being, providing tools to cope with loneliness, homesickness, and other negative feelings associated with migration. It also promotes self-acceptance and the development of a positive attitude towards change and challenges. In practice, support programs for long-term migrants could include the development of emotional intelligence skills through workshops, intercultural counseling, and safe spaces for the exchange of experiences. This not only strengthens individual resilience, but also fosters more resilient and cohesive communities. In short, emotional intelligence plays an essential role in long-term migration by strengthening individuals' ability to adapt, manage stress, cultivate meaningful relationships, and promote overall well-being in a culturally diverse and often challenging environment. Toolkit 7. Discovering Migration Concepts. Title of the activity: Discovering Migration Concepts. Aim of the activity: to help participants become familiar with migration terminology: migrant, emigrant, immigrant, long-term migration, forced migration, etc., and to reflect on the emotional experiences that accompany the migration process. Description of the activity. Through a dynamic concept definition and reflection exercise, participants will explore the different types of migration and the emotional challenges associated with each. The activity includes a group discussion to build empathy towards migrants' experiences and understand how emotional intelligence can facilitate the process of adaptation in a long-term migration context. Materials needed: cards with key terms: migrant, emigrant, immigrant, long-term migration, forced migration, refugee, asylum seeker, family reunification, etc. Sheets of paper or blackboard to make notes. Markers of different colors. Paper and pens for participants. Duration of the activity: 45 to 60 minutes. Group size: 10 to 20 participants, organized in small groups of 3 to 5 people. Step-by-step instructions. Introduction to terminology: 10 minutes. Explain to participants the purpose of the activity and why it is important to understand basic migration terminology in order to address the rest of the content. Briefly describe some key concepts, such as long-term migrant, immigrant, refugee, and asylum seeker. Concept definition exercise: 15 minutes. Divide participants into small groups and give each group a set of cards with migration-related terms. Ask them to read the cards and discuss as a group, trying to come up with a joint definition of each term in their own words. Each group writes their definitions on a large sheet of paper or flip chart. Presentation of concepts: 10 minutes. Each group shares their definitions with the rest of the group, explaining how they interpreted each term. The facilitator then provides the official definitions and resolves any doubts, clarifying differences between terms, e.g. long-term versus temporary migrant, voluntary versus forced migration. Group reflection on emotional challenges: 10 minutes. After understanding the terminology, the facilitator introduces the emotional challenges faced by long-term migrants, especially in forced migration contexts. She briefly explains how emotional intelligence can help migrants manage these challenges and adapt to their new environment. Empathy and reflection. Exercise: 10 minutes. Ask participants to think about a situation where they had to adapt to a new place or culture, even if it was for a short time, such as a holiday or a change of school. They will then reflect individually and write about the emotions they experienced during that process. Encourage participants to imagine what they would feel if this adaptation was forced and long-lasting, as in the case of a migrant. Final discussion: 5 minutes. Facilitate a brief discussion on the empathy exercise, asking questions such as, what emotions did they experience in their adaptation process? How do you think these feelings would be amplified in the context of forced migration? How could emotional intelligence help someone in this situation? Reflection and closure. Conclude the activity by highlighting the importance of empathy and understanding towards the experiences of long-term migrants. Mention that, in the context of migration, emotional intelligence not only helps migrants in their adaptation, but can also improve the reception and support provided by local communities. Simple assessment: empathy cards. Write and share: 5 minutes. At the end, each participant writes on an empathy card a word or phrase that represents what they learned about the emotional challenges faced by long-term migrants. They can write something like difficult adaptation, empathy needed, emotional intelligence, etc. Empathy wall. Participants place their cards on an empathy wall. This can be a wall or large poster board to display their final reflections. This allows them to see the thoughts of others and connect with what they have learned from the activity. Activity variants. For small groups or virtual classes, the concept definition exercise can be done on a digital board, such as Miro or Jamboard, where everyone can write and see each other's definitions. If time is limited, you can assign only a few key concepts instead of all of them, or divide the terms between the groups and do a short sharing. Tips for the facilitator. Review terminology in advance to ensure that explanations are clear and accessible. Help participants to connect their own emotional experience with the migration experience, promoting greater empathy and understanding. Emphasize that while not all migration experiences are the same, They can all be related to the challenge of adapting to new environments and cultures. Evaluation method. The evaluation is done through the empathy wall, where participants express their final thoughts. It also looks at participation in the discussion and accuracy in understanding the concepts to assess whether key terms have been correctly assimilated. Additional notes. This activity is ideal as an introduction to create a common ground of understanding on the terminology and emotional challenges of migration. It also prepares young people to delve deeper into issues of empathy and adaptability in subsequent chapters of the book.